As being a multicultural couple, Burchi, we have many similarities, but we have many differences as well. In terms of values, I think that it isn't that easy to differentiate religious values and cultural values because
True.
they coincide on a range of subjects.
Exactly.
By the way, the term cousin, it's a bit interesting for me. I mean, as a
Uh-huh.
Turkish, in African culture, all Africans are cousins. So it
Is it?
doesn't matter whether you are from Senegal or you are from Kenya or from South Africa. If you are coming from that continent, at the first interaction, they are so close. They are so sincere to each other. And I heard it. I mean, I heard it a lot of times. Oh, we are cousins. First and foremost, Turkey popular culture has a significant influence on our children on a daily basis in shaping their attitudes, their behaviors, and their values.
Your jobs are given on the basis of your skills and not on the basis of how you look. Apart from, of course, which industry you are applying that job for, that's a different case, but that would be a minority percentage. Hello and namaste everyone. Welcome to the Expat Parenting Show. Today I have another special guest. I know her as a mother of my son's friend. Both our kids go to the same school, same class. Her name is Suheyla Traore. Welcome to the show, Suheyla. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Rishi. I'm fine, thank you. The weather is fine. I'm fine as well.
As long as the weather is fine in Luxembourg, I don't think so anyone can
Yeah,
complain.
yeah, for sure. I'm fine, thank you.
Perfect. So, to our audiences, I'll give a very brief introduction of Suheyla. So, Suheyla, he is from Turkey. She is of Turkish origins. She is an English teacher, worked in Istanbul, Dakar, Paris, and settled in Luxembourg for the last 4 years. She has a multicultural family environment at home. And I'll let Sohela say more about it. So, over to you, Sohela. Welcome again to the show.
Thank you, Richie. Hello once again. I'm Suheyla, as you mentioned. I am Turkish. I'm an English teacher. And about my short story, while I was working in Istanbul as an English teacher, I always wanted to have an international experience. And my dream came true. I went to Senegal, Dakar. I worked at an international school. Then I came back to Istanbul, and while I was working at a private university, I met with my future husband, and we are a multicultural couple. My husband is Senegalese, and after our marriage, we decided to live in Dakar for 2 years. Our daughter was born in there,
Okay.
and after that, we moved to Paris. And in Paris, I worked at a Turkish community center. But after the birth of our son, I decided to be a stay at home mom for
Mhm.
two young kids. And during that time period, I discovered my interest in patisserie,
Yeah.
in baking, and I participated a workshop at Cordon Bleu. I became an auto entrepreneur, and I participated to the Christmas market of our town for 2 years. It was
Okay.
an amazing experience. And after some time, Charmant Paris evolved into a brunch and bakery. We aimed at meeting up international community around the table
Okay.
while serving them Turkish brunch. And we realized our first event in Paris. It
Mhm.
was so nice to share our Paris experiences with different nationalities and to discover different cultures.
Yeah.
And shortly after, my husband had a job offer from Luxembourg.
Okay.
And as a couple, we have a nomadic spirit, Ruchi. We
Yeah.
always wanted to raise our children in different countries and
Yeah.
in different continents if possible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we accepted the offer, and just in 3 weeks, we moved from Paris to Luxembourg.
Mhm.
And here we are. It has been more than 4.5 years that we are living in Luxembourg now.
Right. Right. What an amazing, journey. You never really know where life takes us, right? For me as
Yeah.
well, like I was happily working in Mumbai. My husband and me both were in India in Mumbai working there. with let's say zero visibility that we would ever come down to a place like Luxembourg.
Mhm.
And now I think it's almost 8 years for us over here. And we cannot even imagine that, okay, what would have we done differently if not in Luxembourg?
Yeah,
So, yeah, interesting. Just a small, because you mentioned of patisserie, and I would like to mention to our audiences over here, Suheyla bakes amazing cakes. We have had the privilege
thank you.
to taste it ourselves. I would also link her Instagram page details for anyone who is based out of Luxembourg. Can definitely check that out and reach out to Suheyla. So,
Thank you.
moving forward, Sohela, you mentioned a little bit about culture, and this is something that I'm personally very fascinated about, especially like after coming to Luxembourg and realizing that we are exposed to so many people of different cultures, and so are our children as well. So I would like to discuss this a little bit about you, because I know that for you as well, it holds a very special value in your family, in your culture, like in the upbringing that you give to both your children, and so is for your husband as well. So, can you share some, some of the key culture and religious value that you and your husband prioritize in raising your children over here in Luxembourg?
As being a multicultural couple, Ruchi, we have many similarities, but we have many differences as well.
Right.
So, first of all, I want to mention how we are trying to overcome these differences.
Yeah.
I remember one day just before our marriage, we were discussing on this issue, and we said we can easily clash over the Senegalese culture and the Turkish culture. And to avoid that, we came into a conclusion that whenever we are going to have a different opinion on any subject, we are going to look at the life of our Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and we will try finding a solution in his life.
Hmm.
And I can easily say that it has been almost 14 years, and it worked very well whenever we stuck at that decision.
Yeah.
And in terms of values, I think that it isn't that easy to differentiate religious values and cultural values because
True.
they coincide on a range of subjects.
Exactly. That
You
becomes
know,
quite a thing. Yes.
yeah, and as a couple, what we try to do is to prioritize inculcating the universal values
Hmm.
like compassion, solidarity, peace, responsibility in our children by exemplifying the lives of the holy prophets and the lives of the important figures throughout history. This is one of the ways that
Right.
we try to do. And how do we ensure to maintain these values in Luxembourg?
Yeah.
Actually, we try communicating with the Turkish community and international community as much as possible, the Senegalese community as much as possible. Our daughter has a group of friends.
Yeah.
There are most of whom are at the same age. They meet regularly, and whenever they meet, they are really happy. And I have realized that she has developed a stronger sense of identity with them, with her Turkish friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and another advantage that we have is my parents. They
Yeah.
are living 2 hours away from us,
Yes.
and kids have a very good communication, especially with my mother.
Yeah.
And over a period of time, my mother has helped our children a lot in building their sense of identity.
Right.
So we try our best to, to benefit from these advantages. The Turkish community and my family.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can go over this particular point of having a community again and again. I think this particular aspect of community and a network around you is something that has come up in almost every episode that I've recorded so far. And I cannot emphasize the importance of it enough. Like, even for ourselves, we have a very strong Indian community over here. I've seen people again from different nationalities, even who have come from eastern part of Europe, Romania, Macedonia.
Mhm.
other countries. They have even the Finnish community up north. So yeah, they have all of them have a very strong community, and it's with those community and the interactions that they have. They provide, I mean, parents like us try to inculcate and extend this aspect of culture to our children and make them familiar with who we are, our identities. And of course, it is up to the children to pick up what they can. Beyond a point, I'm sure
Mhm.
we cannot push anything, but we
Mhm.
definitely want to have to give them an exposure of where we come from.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And my daughter, whenever we discuss on this issue, she says, I feel more comfortable sometimes with my Turkish friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's so natural.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have same traditions, same customs, same celebrations, same
Yeah.
understandings. Yeah, she's very good with her all international friends as well. But the sense of identity, it is something that it is innately in us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I felt that even with Riyansh as well. Like, of course, I mean, he's friends with all his classmates and he has friends from different nationalities. But the comfort that he has with Indian friends, even though if they are not even speaking in Hindi many a times, they might be speaking in Luxembourgish or English at times, but still,
Hmm.
I've seen that comfort level of children. And as you rightly pointed out, it's something very innate in human beings, I think.
Hmm.
We need not teach that, but I think it's like a magnetic force which kind of attracts you to itself.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Another aspect, in fact, which you mentioned here is that the proximity of your parents being like close to Luxembourg and the impact of their interaction with your children is something I think, again, now that I live here and my parents aren't close by, and so are the parents of my husband. So they are not close by. We feel at times, that grandparents do have an impact and a very significant role in the upbringing of their grandchildren as well. Because there are things that maybe us as parents might not be able to impart it the way that probably our parents could. It's their way of forming a bond with their grandkids, maybe in form of storytellings, stories from our culture or maybe from our religion. I'm sure you have a lot, even in the Islamic tradition, you have a lot of stories with which we actually make our kids familiar with what our culture is.
Hmm.
And I think that's which I have observed, at least in with my parents, is that they like to share all these stories with the kids because it's their way of playing with them or interacting with them. I would like, would love to know more from you. Like, is it the same that your parents also try to do with your kids?
Yeah, they do. Especially as I said, my mother, she helps us a lot in that sense, especially with our daughter. She's 12. She's close to puberty, and with all kind of discussions. For example, sometimes we discuss on different topics, and then I call my mom. I hope she doesn't watch us. I mean, my daughter. I call my mom and I inform her about the situations and all that puberty stuff, and then he talks to her as well. Because we are same. I mean, me, my mom, and our traditions,
Yes.
our upbringing, and so she talks to her the way we do.
Yeah.
Uh, so then I see that she is convinced.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, it's so important. It's really important in their early childhood period as well. It's really important, but especially during puberty, I have seen that so clearly, especially during that time period. It is much more important
Absolutely.
to have the support of grandparents.
Yeah. And in fact, what I've also observed is, I mean, I don't know about you, but based on my personal experience, like when I was going through that age of puberty and those teenage years, it's that time frame which I feel for most of the people, it is like the parents are the last set of people you want to go and talk to. So for us, like for people in like the teenage years, when you're going through that phase, you feel like, okay, your parents would definitely have a solution, but you're not comfortable enough talking to them. Or maybe it's just that you think like whenever you go, they will tell you something which is the exact opposite of what you want to do. So yeah, grandparents over there in such situations could be really, really helpful in sorting the lives of families.
Yeah, and being a good friend with grandparents, this is another important point. She has the ability to be young kids like them, and they like her, spending time with her. So this is one of the biggest advantages that we have as an expatriate, family living abroad.
So Hannah, moving forward, like I'd like to ask, you mentioned that you have these discussions with your kids, and even your mother tries to impart few things and talk through them, be a friend with them. But specifically, like when people think of imparting certain cultural or traditional values, or talking about customs to the children, uh, often parents feel handicapped, like, okay, how do I go about it? So maybe from your experience, because you and your husband both come from, let's say, different parts of the world, and you are multicultural, you come from Turkey, and your husband comes from Senegal. So how do you balance these cultures out, and how do you try to incorporate these culture in your daily life?
Actually, in our daily life, Ruchi, we have a Turkish way of living,
Mhm.
which sounds natural as the mother of the house is Turkish.
Right.
But in terms of traditions and customs, we try teaching these through our way of living and through literature. For example, before they go to sleep, we read Senegalese books or Turkish books,
Mhm.
and what I have seen, they learn a lot by this way.
Right.
And we try our best bringing those, ordering those Senegalese books and Turkish books. And since their childhood, they learned a lot through literature.
Mhm.
And in Senegal and in Turkey, the dominant religion is Islam.
Right.
So, we share a lot of common points actually, even though we belong to different continents.
Yes. And the
But
languages apparently are different, because I think Senegal
yeah,
is a francophone country.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, yeah.
It is. And we have, for example, we have same celebrations like Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, Laylatul Qadr, Ashura, and many others.
Yes.
Even though the way we celebrate them has slight differences, but the core of it is the same.
Yeah.
For example, during Eid al-Adha, kids wear traditional Senegalese dress and they like it.
Yeah.
And during Ashura in Senegal, they prepare a traditional Senegalese dish named chere. And in Turkey, we prepare a Turkish dessert named Ashura. They
Mm-hmm.
like the both and they enjoy the both. And I think this is the innate cultural richness for our children. And we try our best to support them, learning their cultural values from all different perspectives. It
Right.
can be through videos, it can be through books, it can be through our way of living,
Yeah.
it can be through grandparents.
Yeah. It can be even through food.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, in our daily life, we cook Turkish food, we cook
Yeah.
Senegalese food as well. They like the both.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. I mean, I think food is, to me, it's like a subset of culture. Like
Right.
whichever culture you go to, food and the cuisine that exists there becomes a significant part, apart from the way that you dress up, the language that you speak, and the intercommunity interactions that you have. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. So, of course, I mean, to our audiences here, I'd just like to give a quick takeaway from what Suhela has mentioned here. In case if you are struggling to impart these cultural values and those pass on these customs, or make them aware about it, then definitely you can try out the different methods that Suheyla mentioned. One of them is, of course, literature. So reading, it definitely helps. And trust me, with at least seeing, I have one son, Suheyla at least has two kids. But even from what I've observed with Riyansh is, yes, reading does open up a lot of curiosity in kids' minds, and it helps in retention. So even if you yourself do not like reading, but please, I would highly encourage you to encourage your kids to read, and even giving them exposure to videos at times, some, some animated series or something on YouTube. If it is in a controlled way, then I think so it really helps kids. um,
For sure.
okay, so to my next question to you, Sohela, is living in Luxembourg, like, have you observed anything, or do you feel like that there is anything lacking in terms of the cultural or religious aspects? And you feel like that if you had access to those, then probably it would have been a little easier for you to make your kids integrate with the culture well?
Actually, Ruchi, I find your question a bit thoughtful. You know what? What I feel lacking in Luxembourg is the mindset of the global south.
Hmm.
What do I mean by that? As parents, we are innately citizens of the global south, and our children are innately citizens of the global north. And we want them to embrace the values of the global south and the working discipline of the global north. And we want them to prioritize community and collective well being over individualism.
Yes.
And we want them to have moral and ethical values that guide their behaviors and their decision making process. And we also want them to mingle these two value systems in such a way that they work harmoniously within themselves
Right.
because they belong to different mindsets,
Yes.
and they should immerse in both of these.
Yes.
And when I want to come back to your question, one of the values of the global south, which coincides with Luxembourg, is its cultural diversity.
Right.
Luxembourg is a melting pot of cultures with its significant expatriate community
Absolutely.
that enhances, its inclusion and multicultural society. I remember from my daughter's class when she was in primary, there were 20 students with 23 different nationalities.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yes, it's amazing that our kids have exposure to this kind of diverse, let's say, friends that early on, so that they do not have form any biases or preconceived notions at this age or this tender age. And
Hmm.
and it's really amazing to see that. I think we are lucky in that case
Hmm.
that we are here in Luxembourg, where at
Hmm.
least our kids and we ourselves have exposure to people from different nationalities, from different cultures, different backgrounds, and different walks of life.
And apart from the advantages of living in Luxembourg, like quality of life, safety, economic prosperity, multicultural environment, and high standard public education,
Yeah.
we face with some difficulties as well. And it's so normal because we are minorities, Ruchi.
Yes. Yes.
And I wish we had a larger and more active Muslim community around us.
Yeah.
And from time to time, my daughter tells me, Mom, today I met with a girl who's fasting like me. Or the other day she says, Mom, a friend of mine said they are celebrating Eid al-Fitr. She's a Muslim. I didn't know that. She feels excited and she feels happy.
Yeah.
And I think when youngsters share their values and their customs with their friends, they feel more connected to the society they live in.
True.
It
True.
helps them to
It-
see their friends
yes.
sharing the same values, the
Ab-
same celebrations.
Absolutely. Maybe, yeah, I did not realize it that much because, I mean, you're also aware, like our sons go to the same class. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm not proud of saying that, but yeah, we do have like a huge Indian population there. Like the ratio is slightly skewed towards the Indian boys there in the class. But despite that, at least, I mean, from the interactions and the stories that I hear from Riansh, I mean, it's always fascinating to see the way that even the school administration, does conduct these events from time to time. I mean, they keep acceptance day during key festivals. They invite parents and even children to share about their custom, their religion, so that even the rest of the kids
Mhm.
are aware of it. So I think that's really great, and I really like this part wherein at least I can see that the kids know about other cultures as well, and I see a sense of respect when they tell this to me, even when Riyansh comes and tells to me about, for example, Eid ul-Fitr, that, they do that, they do this. And I see that he's excited to share this with me, that he learned something new. And there is this festival as well that he can enjoy along with his friend. Okay, it's a different case that we come from different religions, but at least there is a sense of connection that he has
Mhm.
with his friend. And he feels excited to share that with me. And he takes pride in that, that, okay, we celebrate anything which is good together. And at the same time, of course, when there is something which is, problematic, I see that the children are also developing this skill that we solve it together, we figure it out together, which is really heartening to see from these 8-year-old kids who are
Yeah.
still figuring out in life that, how life progresses. But yeah, it's an interesting journey for us as parents as well. And you mentioned one of the points, like the difference between North and South, specifically on the aspect of, a community living versus an individualistic living, which again is something, I think I resonate with you 100% on that, because this is also something at the back of the mind that always keeps me there, that, everything is good about where we are living. But yeah, because it has a certain Western influence, or you can say a North influence, or the way of living, that people here are more individualistic. And the region that we both come from, we have seen that the society thrives in communities. The economies thrive in communities, and we have always had this spirit of, working together, being with people, being with the community. So it's the family to us is not just the immediate family, but
Mhm.
even the extended family becomes a big part of our family, which I feel lacking here. And it's kind of difficult at times to make people understand this concept of, okay, that, yeah, I have cousins and I'm equally close to them.
By the way, the term cousin, it's a bit interesting for me. I mean, as a
Uh-huh.
Turkish, in African culture, all Africans are cousins.
Ah,
So it
is it?
doesn't matter whether you are from Senegal or you are from Kenya or from South Africa. If you are coming from that continent, at the first interaction, they are so
Mhm.
close. They are so sincere to each other. And I heard it. I mean, I heard it a lot of times. Oh, we are cousins.
Oh, nice. This is
Yeah,
something I learned new.
even within the family, for example, kids who are playing together on the streets, they became cousins. At first, I couldn't understand it. I always asked my husband, cousins? I mean, maternal or paternal?
Uh,
He says, no, he's our neighbor. Ah, okay, neighbor, but a cousin.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's good to see how, the same word can also be used in different contexts, in again, from where you're coming from. But yeah, well, we learned something new today. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing this. Again, I think there is one more question, which of course we have discussed offline at times, but in one of our interactions, you mentioned um, that you as a parent are concerned about the effects of pop culture and consumerism in our children. And I've seen a lot of parents, including myself, struggling with it. I mean, I think most of us have been there at some point of our, parenting journey. So just because I know the context a little bit more, we have had this offline discussion, but to our audience, so what would you like to elaborate on this particular aspect, and what have been your challenges personally with regards to this, and how did you address them as a family?
First and foremost, Ruchi, popular culture has a significant influence on our children on a daily basis in shaping their attitudes, their behaviors, and their values. The impact can be both positive and negative depending on the content and context.
Yes.
For example, educational programs, documentaries, or interactive media can enhance their learning and their curiosity. It's okay. And or with age appropriate games, they can improve their multitasking skills or their problem solving skills. But I want to emphasize our concern about the effects of popular culture from the two different perspectives, and both affect our children differently.
Yeah.
The first is the sexualized popular culture on girls.
Right.
What is sexualization? According to American Psychological Association, sexualization is having a personal value based on only sex appeal. And I read an article by Maddie Coy from London Metropolitan University. This article has a research evidence on the harmful impact of sexualized popular culture on girls and on young women. And there is a report of American Psychological Association as well, which concludes that sexualization is linked to eating disorders, a lack of self-esteem, as well as a sense of dissatisfaction that leads to low self-confidence and anxiety.
Yeah.
I want to share with you one of our daughter's experience. A few years ago, they went to a school trip, and she stayed with her class fellows. And she shared a room with her classmates. One of her classmates used to wake up an hour earlier to get ready for the day. She had a big bag of skincare products and makeup products. And one day, she innocently asked her, "Why do you have to use all these every day?" And the answer she gave is the proof of the report. She said, "You don't understand me. I'm not as beautiful as you, so I need them." It means a lot, Ruchi.
Yeah, yeah.
It really means a lot. With primary kids,
child life so much, yeah.
And I read another thoughtful sentence, saying that today, in today's age, young girls are adultified and adult women are youthfied. Why? Because, adult products are aimed at younger and younger children in order to guarantee more consumers. So I see the young generation of this age as the direct victim of the cosmetic industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 True. Yeah. Which is true. I mean, it reminds me of, I won't say a similar incidents, but it reminds me of what used to happen in India for a very long time. India was ruled by Britishers. We were a British colony for a very long time. Of course, the British were whites and the Indians were brown in skin color. So this difference of skin color, my God, it still exists in different parts of India till date. I mean, the need for people to have a whiter skin is still very much there because of whatever happened in the past, but it is unfortunately being passed on to the generations, and women, young girls are made to feel that your skin is not light enough. That means you're not smart, you're not intelligent. I mean, you equate the color of your skin to an individual's how smart they are, how intelligent they are, what's their personality like, no matter how well built they are. I've seen a lot of cosmetic products, fairness creams, a very big market in India. because of the same reasons. And it is this part of consumerism that you're marketing a thing in such a way that, okay, the ads that you see, you have a fair skin, you will get a job interview. I mean, what's the logic, right? I mean, your jobs are given on the basis of your skills and not on the basis of how you look. Apart from, of course, which industry you are applying that job for, that's a different case, but that would be a minority percentage. But it definitely plays an important role in the mindsets of an individual. And if this early on we are letting the next generation know that, you're not good enough if you don't use these cosmetics, or if you don't look a particular way, then it definitely has an impact on their self-esteem. They have identity crisis in one way or the other. And yeah, I don't know, it's a sad situation. I mean, we both can go on and on discussing that.
And about that situation I faced when I was younger in my adolescence period, I lived in Pakistan in Islamabad for 3 years,
Mhm.
and I really couldn't understand why my classmates had to change their skin color during specific events, during celebrations. I was too young to understand
Right.
that. Then I got to know about it, and I faced with the same reality, Ruchi, in Dakar, in Senegal.
Yeah.
The products, they turn their, color into white. They try to turn their color into white during their wedding ceremonies or on any celebration. Of
Yeah.
course, they can be. I cannot claim, I mean, as all Senegalese community or all Pakistani or all Indian community,
Yes.
but there is a case like that.
Yes.
It is a reality
Yes.
in those societies.
Yeah.
But in this part of the world, it is something else.
It's something.
The way we apply that mindset can be different,
Yeah.
but the mindset is the same.
Yeah.
So, and the second harmful impact of the sexualized popular culture on girls is as important as the first one. It's so interesting for young girls, according to the study, the preoccupation with shopping, crushes on boys, and attention to physical appearance potentially limits their creativity.
Hmm.
They are at the ages of huge potential in learning, in discovering themselves, in discovering the world around themselves.
Right.
But they are at a high risk of wasting this valuable potential for the sake of cosmetic industry and for the sake of fast fashion industry.
True. And I think, yeah, I mean, this is something collectively, not just you and me, but the more we can talk about it with our network, our set of friends, and, make this a chain reaction, pass on this message and discuss more about it, I think then we can bring some little change in the mindsets of people, because I'm sure it's going to take a long time. We're
Yeah.
not the first one facing this issue, but somebody needs to take some action.
Yeah. And, our second concern about popular culture is about media violence.
Yes.
And I believe that millions of parents globally share the same concern with us.
Yeah.
I read an article named Violent Video Games and Its Effect on Youth. And according to this study, media violence increases the aggressive and violent behaviors both in short term and in long term contexts. But, ironically, parents who are very attentive to keep their children away from the violence at home,
Yeah.
they do very little to keep them away from weaving larger quantities of violence in video games
True.
and in movies.
Absolutely.
Again, according to the same article, it says, children aged 7 or above are more vulnerable to the effects of violent video games than adults because they don't have the same understanding of the fantasy reality distinction
Exactly.
that adults do.
Yes.
So they may easily consider as violent images as more real.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was an interesting information. A video game historian, Stephen Kent, says in previous times, in 1980s, in video games, when players shot enemies fell and disappeared, Ruchi.
Mm.
But in today's games, with technological advances, enemies fell and bled on the floor.
Yes. Yes.
But why the level of violence in video games is increasing dramatically? And
Right.
according to the same study, it says because they sold better if they contained more violence. And what do I conclude from these two articles? The cosmetic industry and the video game industry doesn't really care about both the physical health and the mental health of the younger generation.
It's unfortunately, yeah, it's a sad reality. And in fact, it makes me think of, so there was this article I was reading yesterday, which was about the use of smartphones in kids. And again, this somewhere linked to this popular culture and consumerism that we are discussing now. And there are parents who are struggling with it. I mean, early on, unfortunately, they had to kind of, let's say, provide access to this. And now, of course, things have gone beyond their control. There are those set of parents who definitely do not want to provide any kind of smartphone access because of the same reasons that the children's mind are not yet developed fully to understand the impacts of what it could do. And as you rightly pointed out, at this age where our children should be more concerned about, learning new things, getting to discover themselves, unfortunately, they are kind of stuck in a small digital device where they spend most of their time. Unfortunately, they have. I mean, over here in Luxembourg, things are still better, I believe, because I still see children playing outdoors and enjoying their outdoor time. But unfortunately, in many parts of the world, I mean, I've seen a couple of, my friends' kids back home in India. Uh, they do not have outdoor time anymore. And it's so, so sad that there is a park right below, accessible to you. But no, the kids aren't playing outside. The kids are busy playing something on their iPad. They're doing something or the other, even if they are learning something on iPad. But I feel like, there are things which should be done the traditional way, and I feel like it's good if you do it the old school way rather than following what, let's say,
For
the
sure.
popular culture is now. It's okay to be backward a little bit in things like that.
I totally agree with that.
Okay. It was an interesting discussion. I mean, I really, really, I get, passionate about discussing such things because I know it really affects the next generation. And those are the topics close to your heart, close to my heart as well. As I said, I mean, to our audience, I can go on and on about it, but I'll respect time. So I have one interesting question to you, Suheyla, and probably I realized that maybe I should have asked that to you before. Still, there are a lot of people, I mean, who do not know much about Islam. And maybe, I mean, to younger children, to children of maybe Riyansh's age or younger than them, who might not have heard anything about it, or maybe they might have some partial information here and there from bits and pieces that they might have collected, and they have formed their own perspective about it. So, to anyone that you would like to tell about Islam, how would you describe Islam as?
Islam, first of all, is the world's major monotheistic religion, which is founded in the 7th century by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And the starting point of Islam is the belief in the oneness of Allah. By the way, I use the word Allah, which is the Arabic translation of God, but in Islamic teachings, God does not fulfill the meaning of Allah.
Mm-hmm.
And we follow the teachings of the Holy Quran, which we believe to be the final revelation of Allah. And Islam is not only a religion, Ruchi. It's a comprehensive way of life, that includes personal, social, and ethical dimensions to foster a balanced and harmonious existence.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when we teach the concept of Islam to our children from an intellectual perspective,
Yeah.
I exemplify by telling them that, that if you spend a lot of time on screen, it is harmful for your well-being and for your physical health. So it isn't compatible with Islam.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you go to basketball training, It is beneficial both for your physical health and for your mental health. So it is compatible with Islam.
Mm-hmm.
So, this signifies that in Islam, we can achieve the real peace of mind and body through obedience to Allah. But how do we know the guidance of Allah in Islam? It may change in any religion.
Right.
So Allah's guidance in Islam is multifaceted. It encompasses the Holy Quran, the exemplary life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him,
Mm-hmm.
and the use of intellect by the observation of the nature, personal prayers as well, and community support. So these are all important in pursuing Islam.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, this is something definitely this part of the episode I'd like to, put as a separate clip as well. Because I have seen people having misunderstandings about religion and,
Mhm.
they fight in the name of religion or even with their
Unfortunately.
partial knowledge. Yeah, I feel that it's our responsibility to just let people know that whatever you know may not be correct. So please go check yourself, check the
Search.
facts, and then it makes a lot of sense. And even to younger generation, to children who are in their initial ages of their life, for them to make them aware of different cultures, different traditions in such a way wherein we ourselves are not biased is, I think, the right way of upbringing rather than we as parents imposing a certain thought of ours and then
Mhm.
let that become the child's reality. I think we should refrain from doing that and provide, an unbiased perspective to our kids and provide them a neutral ground for learning.
Mhm.
So thank you for sharing that. I
You're welcome.
appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. And what I believe as well, each religion has a different perspective.
Absolutely.
So we should respect each religion from its own perspective.
Yeah.
It's not only respecting a religion, but the perspective it has also different. I mean, Christians shouldn't be the same as Muslims. Muslims shouldn't be the same as Jewish or Hindus or Buddhist or atheist or whatever it is.
Yes.
So the perspective we have is different, and what we believe is what we believe should be respected.
Absolutely.
I I don't think that religion is a kind of discussion or a means of war or big quarrels. It's in May.
Yeah. We can live in harmony, having different
Yeah,
perspectives,
and
and
we can, by the way, get from each other as well. I can learn from others. They
absolutely.
can learn from me. This is the
Absolutely.
richness.
This is the richness. Yes, we can live very much in harmony with a multicultural, multi-religious,
Yeah.
environment around us. So yeah, okay. Again, like with multicultural, multi-religion. So my next question to you is again something on the multicultural family environment that you have in at your home. So how do you manage the use of different languages? Because I know at your home you speak different languages. At school, the kids are exposed to different languages. So how do you prioritize these languages? Because to me, again, a language is a very important way by which we can again let our kids be a part of our culture, and in fact also extend this beyond to our immediate family, and maybe a very important means of interaction with our like with the grandparents. Language plays a key role because I don't know about you, but definitely in my case, like my parents and both my in-laws, they're not that comfortable with English.
Mhm.
They speak Hindi, and that's the language that they have known and used for a very, very long time. And to me, while I was raising Riyansh, the one thing that I had very clear in my mind was no matter what happens, I learned English by going to school. My parents did not teach me. My son will also learn English the same way. But it's important for me that he should be able to speak to his grandparents, and they should be able to have like a free communication between themselves without me or my husband being the interpreter for them. So that was one rule that I don't know we set up in our family, that we spoke in Hindi most of the times. Even well, I mean, Riyansh has grown up here ever since he was born. So Hindi was his first language, and then we introduced the other languages to him. But yeah, I would love to know it from you. Like, how has been your experience in your life, in your family life so far?
In the early childhood period of our kids, my mother lived with us for a few years in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So their mother tongue, which is Turkish, is fluent, as they had two mother figures in their early childhood. But I speak with my husband in Turkish and in English,
Mm-hmm.
so they are exposed to both languages.
Yeah.
When our daughter started schooling in Paris, she started speaking in Turkish and in French with her dad,
Yeah.
and he responded in both languages.
Mm-hmm.
But when their education language uh, changed from French to English in Luxembourg, they started speaking in Turkish, from time to time in French and in English, and their dad responded in any of these.
Hmm.
But with me, the daily language is always in Turkish.
Nice.
So they know that very well.
Yeah.
With mom, we can only speak in Turkish.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But once our son started primary at English section, their play language has turned to be both in Turkish and in English.
Okay.
So we use these three languages at home. And by the way, with me, it's always in Turkish.
Yeah.
But with my husband, I may shift to English. I don't even realize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they got used to. But whenever they speak with me, they know that, yeah, our son, for example, he tries speaking with me in English,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want to give that option. He's too young, and he should know that the native language is Turkish with mother.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel you completely. That's been my case as well with Riyansh. Uh, Even though when he tries to speak to me in English for some time, like I listen to two, three sentences and then I'm like, Riyansh, can you talk to Hindi with me? I mean, I'm comfortable talking in Hindi. Do you mind speaking in Hindi? By now, he also knows that, yeah, I appreciate Hindi more, and that's our language of connection.
Hmm.
And at least, I mean, with languages, at least I'm sure you would also agree, the more you practice, the more comfortable you get. And it's only, unfortunately, our kids are only exposed to us when it comes to these mother tongues. So
Yeah,
they can practice with us. And if we ourselves as parents do not follow this, then we cannot expect our kids to learn that language and practice
yeah.
it and speak fluently the way we do.
And the another point is in Turkey we have only one language, and that is Turkish. One official language, that is Turkish.
Okay.
So if you are in Turkey, you should speak Turkish because let's say unfortunately we are not good at English or any other languages,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
even though we learn at school, but we are not proficient. You
Yes.
know, so Turkish is a must. Uh, in Senegal, the case is they speak Wolof,
Mm-hmm.
but the official language is French.
French, yeah.
So my in-laws and these other family members, they all speak in French.
Yeah.
So this is, even though our kids, they don't speak in Wolof, they
Mm-hmm.
have a communication language which is in French. But in Turkey, if they do not speak Turkish, they will have no communication language
Whatsoever.
with the Turkish side of the family.
True, true. And then they will feel aloof from, even being physically there, they will feel a little
Hmm.
distant,
Yeah.
that they are not able to, and it's natural again. I mean, even for us as adults, like when we move to new geographies and when we don't know the language that the majority of the people are speaking around us, we might feel a
Hmm.
little handicapped and a little distant from where we are. Same is the case with children, but yeah, like just a request from my side to all the parents, especially who come from different backgrounds and again diverse cultures. please stick to your mother tongue, whatever it is. It definitely helps. It's a very significant part of a child's identity, of an individual's identity. So I would really urge you and request you all to stick to it. It's also a great way to form, great bonds with grandparents, especially for grandkids. So yeah, stick to it and don't worry, the children will pick up those languages. I mean, we as adults struggle, but children are, their brains are very fertile, and they can pick things way faster than what we can. So go
For
ahead
sure.
and let your kids explore different languages, whatever they would like to. Okay, so moving forward to the next section of our podcast, Sohela, I mean, I have shared an example of it. I mean, we discussed about the use of social media as well. I would like to talk specifically, like in detail about it. Like, we are living in a digital age, unfortunately. Like, even at school, we see our kids are exposed to iPads and tablets. They are doing part of their, let's say, homework in few subjects over there. How do you manage at home the influence of this modern technology and social media in your children? I'm sure the younger one is too young, but for your daughter, like how do you manage it and how do you try to balance it with your family values?
I think, Richie, first of all, as parents, we should know the side effects of the excessive use of modern technologies and social media.
Yeah.
Once I watched a video of Simon Sinek about the chemical named dopamine, that which we know very well,
Yes.
which is released whenever we enjoy our time on social media. But it is exactly the same chemical that is released in alcohol,
Yeah.
in nicotine, and in gambling.
Right.
But we have age restrictions on three of these
Yes.
because we know that adolescent's mind isn't mature enough in dealing with the addicting chemical.
Yeah. Yeah.
But interestingly, we don't have any age restrictions on cell phones with internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though we have some age restrictions on social media accounts or on video games, we know that unfortunately they aren't mostly respected by the younger generation.
Yeah. It's not foolproof. It's
Yeah.
not foolproof. Yeah.
So our children are not at the legal ages of having social media accounts, but of course, we believe that it is very important to convince them intellectually and emotionally on any subject,
Mhm.
including the influence of modern technologies
Yeah.
and the balance of them in our life.
Yeah.
For example, we discuss about this issue regularly with our children. Lately, we discussed about a research paper on how regarding screen for long hours affect our brain cells.
Mm.
And after that, I remember our son. She was a bit younger. He was a bit younger. He said, "Mom, today I watched extra 10 minutes. Do you know how many of my brain cells were affected from that?" He was
Yeah.
so cute.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then he said, "Okay, tomorrow I should remember watching 10 minutes less." Okay, he failed that day,
Yeah.
but at least he started to learn that he should control himself the other day
Yeah.
because he was convinced
Yeah.
about the negative effects of, uh, watching extra, looking at the screen on extra minutes.
Right. Right. And which is very, I think it's an interesting way to teach children about the harmful effects of, let's say, screen or devices for a very long time. Because most of the parents, like the general tendency is, don't do this, this is bad for you. And like, I mean, there's no scientific backing, but the example that you shared, like having these discussions, like say, I mean, okay, it's a research paper that you're discussing together, or maybe candidly you brought it up with them and then you're discussing it. They are also part of the discussion. They're involved in it. Maybe they, if they want, they can also read along with you. I think maybe it's an interesting way. I would love to try that with Riyansh myself. Fortunately, touchwood, I haven't had this condition so far that I really have to struggle managing this time because he's also watchful, like not that he does not have screen time, but then he has a controlled screen time and he respects that. We respect it, so which is fair enough. But yeah, of course, as he grows up, I mean, it's a good way to have this discussion with children for whatever things. I mean, not just with the digital media use or screen use, but whatever points that you want to share with your children, put it in a discussion format and bring some scientific backing along with it. I think the children are mature enough to understand that yeah, there is a logic to why your parents are saying something a particular way, rather than if we just come up with our opinions and scold them unnecessary. I don't think so. It would make a good impression, but they will feel more distant from us if we do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, right.
thank you. Thanks, Suheyla, for sharing this. I'm sure, I mean, again, this could be a useful and a practical tip to all our audiences who are watching this podcast today. Try this out. Let us know if it worked for you or your family, or if you try some other way of having such discussions with your children. Feel free to share it in the comment section below. Reach out to me over DM. I'd be more than happy, and I'm sure Suheyla would also be more than happy. You can let us know. I'll tag her in all the social media posts that I'll share of this episode. Okay, so my next question to you is, what advice would you like to give to expat parents who are trying to maintain this cultural and religious balance in their family lives while living, in a foreign country?
I want to share with you one of our family traditions.
Mm-hmm.
When we moved to Luxembourg, we were in lockdown after 3 weeks. And during that time period, I used to watch TED Talks and YouTube videos about, philosophy, personal development, child education, tafsir, and on many other subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And while we were having our dinner, I used to discuss and tell whatever I have learned that day. And since then, our son asks every day, almost every day, Mom, what did you learn today?
Wow.
So now it is essential for me to learn something new to answer his question almost every day.
Yes.
And, over a period of time, we discussed on many subjects,
Yeah.
like the importance of willpower from the Stanford marshmallow experiment on young children.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed the connection between the sense of superiority and the devil. When devil disobeyed Allah, by telling him that you created me from fire, but you created Adam from earth.
Mm-hmm.
So I am superior to him, which is one of the evil nature of human beings, having a sense of superiority in terms of race, culture, gender, religion, or language.
Mm-hmm.
And we also discussed about why exercising and social interaction are important to improve our cognitive skills. We discussed about the importance of having good friends from mirror neurons experiment conducted in Italy on macaque monkeys.
Mm.
We also talked about history. Why did philosophy developed by the Greeks but not by the Egyptians?
Mm.
Although Egyptians were at a better level scientifically.
Right.
And over a period of time, we discussed a lot. And I hope one day, all these discussions will have a positive impact in their life journey in terms of their personal development and their well-being.
Yeah. This, I don't know. I mean, I'm feeling just, wowed by what all you said right now, Suheyla. So again, your children are lucky.
Thank
Your
you.
children are lucky that you yourself also invest that much of time to kind of, have these discussions with your kids. And again, coming back to the audience here, I know a lot of people, a lot of parents struggle in having a conversation with kids. Like, what do I talk with my kid? I mean, okay, I ask them about their daily routine. I ask them, what did you eat? What did you play? What else can I talk to them about? But again, so I think Suheyla has shared some great ideas with us. Try and implement those. And yeah, Suheyla, please carry on. I mean, I went a bit.
And, on our parenting journey, Ruchi, I learned two important things. One is that to some extent, children, they do understand and learn very well by verbal communication. But to a greater extent, they learn more efficiently and more permanently by role modeling.
Absolutely.
For example, one of our experiences, when they were at the ages of understanding donations, we started to donate together as a family. I searched for the institutions and for the projects, and we let them to select the projects that we are going to donate. And they generally select projects like child sponsorship, fight poverty, or safe water.
Right.
And once they selected a project named Rescue a Child.
Mhm.
And they were moved to know that in Bangladesh there are more than 1.5 million children living on the streets
Yeah.
due to poverty from the ages of 4 till 18.
Yeah.
And that institution either reunited the children with their families or take them to permanent shelters offering safety, protection, and education. And few months after our donation, due to lack of communication between the school administration and the SEA administration, our daughter took the bus instead of staying at school. And when she came at the bus stop, she couldn't see me. She was a bit anxious. Then she said she decided to walk home, thinking that we may come across on the way, but we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, she arrived home safely, but it was an unpleasant incident both for us as parents and for our daughter.
Yeah.
But Ruchi, at the end of the day, she came to me with exact amount from her pocket money for Rescue a Child project. And she said, Mom, today, while walking on the street searching for you, it was about 45 minutes. I was scared and I was a bit anxious, but I always thought about the children in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Can we please send this amount immediately so that they will rescue a child till the end of the day?
Wow.
I was really touched by this incident
Yeah. Yeah.
because they have seen, they have experienced, they have given their pocket money. It can be either 50 cents or €1. The amount isn't important, but the action is important.
Action. True. You're so right.
And the second important point that I learned is the question of my generation and the previous generations in learning our values.
Yeah.
And the question of today's generation is different.
Yes.
It can either be while learning a requirement of our faith
Yeah.
or needing to wear a traditional dress for a specific event.
Yeah.
The question of my generation mostly asked, how should I do that?
Yeah.
But today's generation is asking, why should I do
Why
that?
should I? Oh God, yes. You're so right.
So, as parents, in order to be more effective in inculcating our values to our children,
Yeah.
especially for their lifelong learning journey, which enhances their social inclusion, their active citizenship, their personal development, we should convince them intellectually, but of course without neglecting their conscience, their soul, and their emotions.
Yes. Yeah. And it's what you said just reminded me of one thing, and maybe an extension to the thought that you just shared of the difference in the generational thought process that probably we carry at our generation and the kids carry at their generation of how should I do that versus why should I do that is also because maybe from the part of the worlds that we are coming from, um, the countries were still developing. Our parents, our families had, let's say, humble, upbringing and backgrounds, and they tried to impart to us the best of education that they could in their means.
Mhm.
But the question with today's generation is, again, fortunately, with God's blessing, we are all well-to-do financially. We do not have that much of struggle that we provide. We struggle to provide those means to our children. So it's not a matter of how anymore left for them because they have, I think, maybe things in abundance. At times, I also feel that they do not value the things that we provide to them because again because it's so much of there. I mean you do not realize the need of a thing unless you do not have it anymore.
Mhm.
uh, And it becomes a question of, okay, why? I mean, why am I supposed to do this? Then the intention gets questioned. And an interesting way, again, as you said, is talking them out intellectually. At the same time, keeping that respectful boundary for us and for them, and letting their conscious, be aware and be respected. So
Yeah.
I think I am done from my side, Suheyla. Any concluding remarks that you would like to share from your side to parents or to kids?
What we have experienced in Europe, it has been almost 12 years that we are in Europe in global north. Whatever we experience, they are very precious and valuable. And the thing is, in this today's popular culture, I don't think that we are going to experience something different in our own homeland.
Mm-hmm.
Because, today's generation in States,
Yeah.
in Luxembourg, in Turkey, in India,
Yeah.
let's go. I mean,
Yeah.
they are the same. They have the same mindset. So
True.
we share a lot. I mean, any African parent or any Asian parent, any European parent, we have the same concern.
Yes.
We should share, we should talk, we should share our experiences. We are young parents, we have young kids, so we need the advices of, older generations. We should be
Absolutely.
open to listen them.
Yeah.
And by the way, thank you very much for your initiative, for this YouTube channel. It's so valuable in
Thank
that
you.
sense. I really find it very valuable.
Thank you, Suheyla. Yeah, that's the intention. Like again, as you said, it's a means for me to share these things that we do in our lives, share our experiences, so that people may take some inspiration from there, and then to other parents who have something to share from their side, to share how they tackle these situations. I mean, as you mentioned, that people from the older generations, or maybe those who are a little ahead of us in their family life, whose children are grown up now, who are already teenagers. Our phase is yet to come there.
Hmm.
For us, the journey is still long, but nevertheless, as parents who are interested to know more about child raising and parenting in general, and who are looking out for ways to provide the best value system to their kids. I'm sure I'm not talking about the education system. All of us, I think, try to impart the best education to the kids, but yeah, in terms of
Sure.
making them good human beings and providing them a mindset so that they can make the right choices in life, is something that we all aspire as parents. And with that, I think I will say bye to you all. So thank you so
Okay.
much for
You're welcome.
being here, and thank you so much, Suheyla, for this discussion today. I really, really enjoyed talking to you. As always, I always enjoy talking to you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, Richie.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for asking me.
Thank you so much. So, thanks
You're
to our
welcome.
audience. Maybe one request, if you are here until now listening to this part of the episode, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe to us. The Expat Parenting Show, we're there on YouTube. If you are more of an audio person, you can find us on all audio podcasts as well. And if you like this episode and you learned something from it, I would request you to please share it with others as well, so that they can also find value and gain value out of it. Thanks again, and see you in another
You're welcome.
episode. Thank you. Bye.